first, Evan, what do you think about the Brock Nelson deal?
I think this was a really good deal for both sides. I think the Islanders did the right thing by selling off Brock Nelson, which I think you may feel all we're in agreement there that they had to sell off Brock Nelson. Like they could not let him walk for nothing there. And good on Lou to acknowledge that he needed to sell off a guy like Brock Nelson, who's a pending UFA, and now that means Paul Mary should be on the table tomorrow too. And now they get futures, and they could either use that first round pick that they acquired to help them get better for next season if they want to do a retool on the fly, or they could use that first round pick to get a really good prospect in a loaded draft class potentially in 2026. And then for Colorado's standpoint, it was a bit of an overpay, but you do what you got to do to try and win. You got to do what you got to do to win. So, yeah, I like the steal for both sides. They got deep down the middle now with McKinnon, Nelson, and Middlestat as their 1, 2, 3 down the middle. So I think they did really well here.
Yeah, because there was all the rumors of Middlestat possibly going, and now you look at that lineup. That looks like a longer lineup that's going to give somebody fits in the playoffs. By the way, just to mention this real quick, and Jalen Brunson hurt. Ugh. So, Chris Drury, you better figure out how to get the New York Rangers to get far. Otherwise, Jim Dolan will absolutely not like that. All right, Matt, I'll go send you an invite too. We'll get you in here. But okay, so Mika Rantanen to Dallas. Is this official yet?
It's getting close, apparently. Elliot Friedman said that it's the talks were intensifying, and I think Pagnotta said that it's I think Pagnotta said it's close. I forgot who else said it was. Let me see if I could find it, but apparently it could happen. It's either going to happen sometime tonight or it's going to happen early tomorrow morning. So
if it could happen tonight at the right time, just please just get it done.
Seriously, yeah, I was trying to go to bed so I could start early tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta work at 4 a.m. tomorrow, till 4 a.m. tomorrow. Beyond that, I won't have time with my wife. Let's check Instagram, see what else they have. No other comments right now, but this is such a big moment that has happened for the New York Islanders. You can hear me clearly, Evan, right? I'm not.
Yeah, you're good.
We actually got 1,300 that are watching right now. That are mostly from X. So isn't that nice? Could you see Brock Nelson coming back with the Islanders? Short answer, yes. Long answer, no, because it's going to be those type of reunions don't happen that often. Where the Aroldis Chapman or the Doug Waite or the Keith Tkachuk as they've been. So we're going to see whether or not that could happen. I have a feeling he goes home to Minnesota. Now it's his time. And somebody is going to offer him 4 to 5 years. You just know it. What do you think, F?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's going to be a team in free agency because, there was that report that apparently they offered a 3-year deal for 5.7 or whatever. There's going to be a team that overpays on July 1st. That always happens, and it's not going to be an exception with Nelson, who's going to be one of the top centers on the market come July 1st. So could it happen? Sure. Maybe if he really liked being an Islander, but now that he's going to be away, maybe he's going to get a different feel being with another organization, and maybe even he stays in Colorado because Colorado has needed help down the middle, and then maybe Middlestat's the guy that goes out.
So, by the way, guys, did I really say Matthew Schneider?
You did, yeah.
Oh boy. Oh my God. I didn't say that. All right, there's the gift, guys.
Get the gift.
And again, good to have you guys on 13 hours before I thought you were going to come on.
Oh, we were doing freaking a bunch of hours before this too, so
it's been ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh goodness, it is
our whole day has basically just been streaming.
Well, Anthony kept on saying to me, he's like, "Are you going to go on? You going to go on?" I'm like, "No, not for Carson Soucy."
Yeah.
This is not it. Matt, start with the Brock Nelson thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought for both sides, like I mentioned when I put it in the chat earlier, I thought for both sides the deal makes sense. And like I was saying, good on Lou for finally realizing that it's time to sell and move on from Brock Nelson. Obviously, I think for both sides, for both Islander fans and for Brock Nelson, I think you could tell that he wanted to stay here. He wanted to sign a long-term extension, but he also has to do what's best for him. And like you said, he's a late bloomer. The Islanders have they severely underpaid him over these last couple of years, and he wants to take care of himself. He wants to take care of his family. So it's his right to go out there and want a bigger time contract than what the Islanders were offering. And I mean, look, a 3-year deal. Nelson, like you were saying, ideally probably wants a 4 or 5-year deal. And again, like you said, he's 33 years old. Father time eventually does catch up to you. And, do you want, and like I was saying, the Islanders already do have a bunch of, long-term bad contracts. You mentioned with Engvall, Mayfield, guys like that, and I was saying, like, while Brock Nelson is good right now, or productive right now, do you want to hamstring yourself to another long-term deal when ideally this roster for the Islanders is on the older side and really not anywhere near a cup right now? So I think for Lou, it was the right decision to make. I thought he got a really good return in terms of, got the first round pick, got Callum Ritchie, got a 3rd round pick. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to also see what he does for Cal Palmieri. And then for Colorado's side, listen, Colorado for me is in the same place kind of where Tampa was, where, they're a couple years off winning a cup. They were still a few pieces away, and they went out there, they went aggressive like we saw with Tampa yesterday or 2 days ago. They went out, they got Yanni Gord, they got Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Colorado does the same thing. Went out, got aggressive, added Brock Nelson to already a powerful offensive team, and they just upgraded their center core by a lot because Mikko Rantanen, Casey Middlestead, and Brock Nelson's a really good 1, 2, 3 down the middle.
A tremendous 1, 2, 3. And it's, again, I actually think he's going to be, and you heard me say this before, guys, that I think he's going to be that piece that's been lacking in Colorado since Nazem Kadri went up to Canada. But of course, that had to happen because obviously you had to get extensions out for Makar and for Nate McKinnon and pay them. Looking at this comment right here from Giacinto, that it's going to cost Dallas some of the top young players to go get Rantanen. One name that was thrown out there was Wyatt Johnson. There's no way he's going, so we know that.
No.
However, do you think it would be a Maverick Bork or would it be a Logan Stankoven?
It could be. It could be Wyatt Johnson. It really could be. And the only reason I say that is because it really depends on what Dallas is doing. Like if they have the intention of extending Rantanen, I think they would maybe give up Wyatt Johnston, but I don't know how they get this deal done without giving him up. I mean, maybe Stankoven or Bork helps, but that, like, I don't know if it's just hard to say that that's enough after what Carolina gave up to go and get Rantanen in the first place to justify. Like, I don't know how you sell to your fan base. All right, we got rid of Marty Necas and futures, and then got Rantanen for literally just a few games and then turned it into Maverick Bork or Logan Stankoven. Could it be? Maybe, because NHL GMs this happens all the time that guys go for less than we think. But I feel like Wyatt Johnson could be in this deal because if they don't have to re-sign him, they're going to have cap space there. And then Jamie Benn's coming off the books after this year. Matt Duchene, Dadonov, all these guys coming off the book. So they'd have the cap space to do it if they moved Wyatt Johnson. But if they have no intention of extending Rantanen, then it makes no sense to move him. And then at that point, it would be an overpay. But I just can't see Carolina getting him for like a significantly lesser package than what they gave up to get him. I would just be stunned by that.
I think they're going to be forced to get whatever package they could just take right now because he's definitely going to free agency. Matt, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be costing them one of those two guys?
I mean, look, it very well could, but you know what? If I'm looking at this from Dallas's perspective, because like really, Carolina doesn't have a lot of leverage right now because as it sounds right now, Mikko Rantanen has no intentions of staying in Carolina or at least signing an extension. So it's either you keep them and you make a run and try to win a cup. And right now, I don't think they're good enough to win a cup. So you could either pivot and try to get something. But then looking from Dallas's point of view, I think Dallas is in a desperate situation too, because they've come up short year after year. And you got to think for Jim Nill, for Pete DeBoer, like they have to win. They have to bring a cup home to Dallas because they came up short in 2020 in the cup final. They lost to a better Tampa Bay Lightning team, fine. But 2023, they get back to the conference final. They lose to Vegas. And then last year, they were probably roster wise in terms of roster construction, probably the better team to Edmonton. I think most people probably expected Dallas to win that series, and they lost in the conference final again. So I think for Dallas, I think it might be one of those where they're just going to be they're going to be forced into making this trade, and maybe they have to give up Wyatt Johnson. Listen, at that point, I like Wyatt Johnson. He's a very good player, but if you're bringing in a guy like Mikko Rantanen and he severely increases your chances of winning a cup, then you kind of look at it and say, like, if we do bring a cup, then it's kind of worth it in the end, isn't it?
It is, because you're reminded of, say, for instance, I'll use the New York Rangers for an example. When they traded Tony Amonte, they got back Brian Noonan and Stefan Matteau, and you look at what their contributions were in the Stanley Cup Finals. Brian Noonan, I believe, was third on the team in scoring, if not fourth. He was one of the assists on the Stanley Cup winning goal by Mark Messier. And of course, Matteau, the two overtime winners. If you got to pay the price, you got to pay the price. You don't want to sit there, as Evan has pointed out several times, and gone, we could have traded Capo Caco and gotten Jake Gensel.
Even I was just going to bring up, because I read this quote earlier today from Julian Brisebois, GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he was talking about the trade of acquiring Gord and Bjorkstrand, and he was saying, listen, like, the picks are nice, and those young guys who we could draft and develop, they could help down the line, but right now Bjorkstrand and Gord is going to help us more to win a cup now. And you know what? I'd rather say that we went in and we tried our best to win, and we left it all out there, instead of going out there and saying a year later, we really didn't do all we could. We could have added a couple more pieces, but we decided to be more conservative, and I think that's the point. And again, that's coming from a GM in Brisebois, who's already won 2 cups and has retooled this roster already. So it's just showing that he's hungry, and he thinks and he believes in this roster that this Lightning team could go and win again. And again, it was one of the reasons why me and like Evan and other fans were mad that they didn't go out there, the Rangers, and they didn't go get Jake Gensel last year, because again, that was their chance to go get him, and they didn't get him, and ultimately they came up short.
I think I get a lot of comments here, guys, about guys saying that the conference playoffs are going to be insane. Really, just that Central Division is going to be insane. And if you want to make sure you have the best record in that conference, because I do think I've been thinking that Minnesota is going to drop to the first wild card anyway. God help you when they get Kaprizov back, and the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers, they better really improve and quick, and they still going to have a tough task, because the LA Kings are going to be just as good. I still think the East is going to be a tougher draw, especially if the Rangers get hot. You don't want to be facing them in the playoffs.
The other thing that I want to go back to, just to go back to the Wyatt Johnson thing for a minute, and the only reason I think that maybe he could be on the table in this deal is because of the fact that Matt and we were talking about earlier that Verhaeghe might have to go the other way if Florida was to trade for him. I look at Wyatt Johnson, younger player, but I look at him and say that's probably, a fair comparable going the other way versus, again, Carter Verhaeghe or even a Sam Bennett, who we were talking about going the other way. I don't know who that could be for Dallas, because there's just such a big difference between Johnston and then Bork and Stankoven, where it's like, I just feel like Carolina might be able to get one of those guys, just because this is probably the highest sought after trade target, even though they don't have as much leverage. But if there's somewhat of a bidding war between, Florida, Dallas, and whoever else, it could lead them to getting a better player than we think.
By the way, my apologies, guys. I actually thought Wyatt Johnson was already re-signed. I could have sworn I saw that earlier in the year. Maybe just slipped my mind. He is an RFA.
Yeah, he's an RFA at the end. So Carolina would get to give whatever extension if they did acquire him. And I mean, I'm seeing people in the chat say Jason Robertson, which maybe, but I don't know if I see that entirely. Again, that I feel like I don't know who Dallas would rather give up. I mean, they probably ideally wouldn't want to give up either, but if it was between any of their other guys, I think they'd ideally maybe give up Hints before those guys, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know what could go the other way. I thought Florida was such a lock to get him that I'm kind of just stunned by this.
Yeah, same. I thought it was the perfect move for Florida, to be honest. And I've said it, on our previous streams that for me, like if Florida got Mikko Rantanen, they would have been easily my pick to go back to back to win another Stanley Cup, because at that point I'm like, cool, like you trade away, like let's say for me, like I think the guy that would go the other way for Florida's sake was Carter Verhaeghe, because he's already locked up. And you could say Sam Bennett could go the other way, but I think for Florida, I think they would rather have that extra center depth down the middle to go on another deep playoff run. And listen, I get it, Carter Verhaeghe's come up, clutch in multiple playoff series. He scored some big goals in Florida's 2 runs to the finals in 23 and 24. But if you bring in Mikko Rantanen again, he doesn't have to be the guy on that offense, and you place him on that first line next to his fellow countryman and Alexander Barkov. Even if you want, you could put Sam Reinhart on the right, or when Matthew Tkachuk ultimately comes back, you could create a first line super line of Rantanen, Barkov, and Tkachuk, and that'd be one hell of a line to watch in the playoffs. But I mean, yeah, if Dallas comes in and gets them, it certainly would be interesting. The only thing I would say though for Dallas is I still think they got to improve that decor, because I know Heiskanen's out, but even when he comes back, you're gonna have guys like Soucy and Dumba on that decor and Labushkin. I don't think that's strong enough. I think they need another defenseman.
Bringing up Dallas's lineup right now for you guys. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. The other thing I kind of can't help but say, guys, I know it's a little bit of a hot take, but Pete DeBoer's got a shelf life. You got to cash in now while you still can, because he's definitely usually when you get into years either 4 or 5, because he did last 4 good years with San Jose. He ends up just losing his team. You look at this, you got Harley, Labushkin, Lindell, CC, Matt. I mean, Matt, you got to get Matt Dumbo off. He hasn't been that great this year.
Yeah. And CC on your second pair is just not it's just not good enough. I mean, we said it during the offseason too, Matt, how it's just like you look at their top 3 defensemen in Harley, Heiskanen, and Lindell, and you're like, that's great. And then you look at the other half and
3 and like,
yeah, because they had like Brendan Smith playing a lot of games for them, and then Niels Lundqvist. So
I just want to correct that for the guys. It's heating up, guys. Technically,
buzzword of the day, heating up.
Yeah, because you don't want to. I don't want people thinking, "Oh, wait, this is real." No, well, we're waiting on it. Yeah, Neil Smith hated the Amante deal. Do you guys remember when we had Neil Smith on? What he said was the one trade he regrets the most? That was Matthias Nordstrom and Ian LaPerriere going to LA.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my dad about that trade too a couple of days ago, and he was saying, yeah, that trade that didn't work out at all for the Rangers.
No. Yari Curry was gone by the end of the year. Marty McSwirly was too, and Shane Churla. And in the meantime, LA had their captain that was in that trade, that future captain. So, all right, the trade is not official. We're still trying to get that. Sorry about that, Noah. Didn't want to get your hopes up or down. But also, I know there's a lot of slaps at Chris Drury for this. There's no way Chris Drury can get him from Carolina.
No,
yeah, go Evan.
I was just gonna say that, like, even if the Rangers were in on Rantanen, I just don't see a world where he re-signs there. Like, it just seems like he prefers to be somewhere else. Like, if he wanted to be in New York, I feel like the Rangers would have been involved because, you'd be dumb not to at that point if he wants to be there and you could get an elite talent, but we haven't heard anything to where he'd want to be here, so I can't blame them. Number one. Number two, they're also financially not in a spot where they could get him because you still have to move Panarin probably, and Zibanejad's here, Kreider's here. They'd have to move one or two of those contracts, and it's like if you acquire him, then you're painting yourself into a corner where you don't have leverage as much in moving a guy like Panarin, especially where you could get a good return for him. Now all of a sudden the team's going to know, all right, you're moving him because you want to re-sign Rantanen, and you lose leverage there.
Twitter's got a lot of good stuff right now. Mika Rantanen's run with Carolina was Aaron Rodgers carrying out the flag for the Jets.
No, that was the JJ Peterka hype for the if it doesn't go through. But no, I think just going back to that point with Rantanen and the Rangers, I don't. For me, like we're from where the Rangers are right now, it wouldn't make any sense to trade for Rantanen. Now, if this was last year and the Rangers were in the same position where they're one of the top teams in the league, they're on pace to win the President's Trophy, and they're that one missing piece away, then yeah, I would absolutely say yeah, go all out and trade for Mikko Rantanen. But as of for right now, where the Rangers are, like even if they acquire Mikko Rantanen, like for me, they're not good enough to win a cup. Especially looking at how the decor looks right now. That decor is not pretty to look at. Even when Fox comes back, it's not a pretty decor to look at. But
nope.
Yeah, and also with the fact that I don't think he's gonna want to resign here. I know Anthony came in our comment section on one of our early streams that we were doing and saying that if Mikko Rantanen is looking to sign an extension somewhere, it's probably with a team with a lower or no state income tax like Florida or Texas. So yeah,
or Vegas.
Yeah, or Vegas. Yeah. So like I was saying, if this was last year and the Rangers were, in the same place where they were last year and on pace to win the President's Trophy, by all means go out, you make that trade for Mikko Rantanen. But even like last year, like they were in that position and Drury was hesitant to go after a guy like Jake Gensel because there was no guarantee he was going to resign. So even with Rantanen, if they were in that position, would Drury, consider trading a guy like Gabe Perreault to go get Mikko Rantanen? I'm not 100% sure.
I think not right now in the position this team is in. If it was, say, for instance, last season, you're trying to push them over the top, that's a different story. Really, he's trying to reshape this team right now. He's trying to make them tougher. He's trying to make them harder to play against. Golden Spaten is saying this one. Would you guys actually include Lafreniere in that Peterka deal?
I said earlier that I would move Lafreniere if this was some bigger trade package that they were doing. So if they were getting like Lafreniere if they're getting Peterka and McLeod, or getting like Peterka and Byram, then yeah, I would easily do that. And maybe the Rangers move another piece out just to, balance the value a little bit more. But I would do it if that was the case. But I don't know if one for one's a little bit more of a question just because of the fact where, if Lafreniere is closer to what he was last year, then he's better than Peterka. But at the same time, I think Peterka's, a safer bet with what he could be. Plus, you do save money there with Peterka.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting question, but I would prefer to move Lafreniere in that deal if they're getting Byram or McLeod also with Peterka.
Also, by the way, don't forget that every state would do income tax. Tennessee is one of those too. The Tennessee could actually go after that. But also, I mean, if he wants to go back to, say, the Utah area, they're going to be hungry to try to upgrade. All right. I know you guys are tired too. So how about we go another 15 minutes, guys?
Yeah, let's go. Maybe because I'm starting to get convinced that Elliot Freeman jumped the gun with this tweet.
And there was also that rumor. I don't know if you see Mark. I don't know if you saw Mark, but Vegas are interested in Brad Marchand.
Yeah, they got to be. I mean, you can't get a guy with that much experience, and go get them. And then you'd be like that meme of John Travolta in Pulp Fiction turning around, wondering what to do. That would be David Pastrnak. Nathan Gravity right now is saying that if a player like Stankoven or Bork are the best players going back, even if you love them, I'm struggling to see how this makes sense for the Canes.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I was saying before, where it's just should be enough teams in a bidding war to where, yeah, Carolina doesn't have necessarily a lot of leverage, but I feel like they should be able to get more than those guys.
By the way, guys, your quick thoughts on Carson Soucy.
Just to rerun those thoughts. I'm not a fan, considering the reports that he might be the guy they're gonna put with Adam Fox. Which, if that's the case, no, he does not belong on a first pair. If he's on a third pair, I could live with it a little bit, because every time he's thrived, it's in sheltered minutes. But at the same time, if he's on the third pair, that means they're moving Zach Jones, which also is upsetting. So I don't love it. I don't hate giving up a third round pick, because it's just like, whatever. It's a third round pick. But I don't love getting another guy where this team has so many left shot defensemen that are kind of just meh. And it's just getting redundant how every time they acquire defense, it's like, yeah, they could be on a third pair. Oh, good depth. Oh, they belong on a third pair. It would be nice if they started to use this ammo to go get, bona fide top 4 defensemen. But like, on the surface, the trade isn't bad, especially if a buying team did this. Like, if Winnipeg did this deal, you'd be like, all right, well, he's going to play on their third pair and it's whatever. But the Rangers are just in a spot where they need to start acquiring more top 4, like bona fide top 4 defensemen. So I don't love that from that regard.
I love this one from Pavel saying that Peterka and Shesterka on the same team would be great. Well, they already got 2 Millers, so Sam can't mess that one up.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Evan. I didn't like the trade at all, and it wasn't like what Evan said. Like, for the pick, listen, it's a third round pick. Like, the odds of you like hitting on a third round pick are low anyway. But it's just, for me, I think it's the wrong player and the wrong fit. But like, again, like what Evan mentioned, like, if you're bringing in Carson Soucy, who hasn't had a good year at all for Vancouver in terms of metrics, points, whatever, like, and you're gonna put him on your first pair along with Adam Fox, like, I don't see it. He's not a first pair defenseman at all. Like, you just got rid of Ryan Lindgren and basically brought in Ryan Lindgren 2.0 on cheaper money, and even not much. I think Soucy's making 3.25, 3.75, somewhere around that. So, and for me, like, I thought it was just it's wrong fit, because again, this team has a lot of depth defensemen, like Evan mentioned, and they need more top 4 kinds of defensemen, guys who can skate, guys who can break the puck out. Because as we saw last year against Florida, their biggest weakness was breaking out the puck and not being able to execute, proper breakouts against Florida, and not being able to handle the forecheck against Florida. And again, Carson Soucy's not that guy. Sure, Soucy's labeled as a defensive defenseman, but even his defensive metrics this year have been down severely. And I get it, he had a couple good years in Seattle with the Kraken, but ever since coming to Vancouver, he's been on the decline. And I think for me, I looked at a guy like, because we heard that the Rangers were looking for guys with term, and Soucy does have another year left on his contract. The guy that I wanted, and I was banging the drum for this guy, because San Jose got him in the offseason this year as a cap dump from Detroit. And then Mike Greer was just able to reflip him again for a first round pick, was a guy in Jake Wallman. I thought Jake Wallman was a guy that, okay, maybe not an ideal top first pair defenseman, but you know what? I could be comfortable with him sliding next to Fox for like this year or next year while you're still in the retool process. And then maybe if you get a better left-handed shot defenseman, you can move Jake Wallman down to that second pair. And then, whoever you're bringing as your first pair left defenseman, that's the guy who you ideally pair with Fox. And I thought Wallman, again, like what I was talking about before, solid defensively, very good offensively, puts up points, and is able to break the puck out, and is a good skater. So yeah, for me, I don't love the trade, and I'm kind of confused on what Drury's doing right now.
I think it was bringing in a more veteran body. I am with you guys that I hope, because if anything that Jones has shown this last week is that Jones could carry the load. And it's funny because he went from literally 0 minutes to 21 out of nowhere. And I think it would be a huge mistake. You keep him as a bottom pairing sort of defenseman, so he gets around weaker matchups, you could say. But I also think I'd be hesitant for Chris Drury to spend the first round draft pick in 2026 when this team just still isn't convincing that it's going anywhere. I mean, we're all kind of operating on that they're going to do this from muscle memory from last year.
I don't know how much info and how many sources Jordan Schmaltz has, but he says Stankoven's going back the other way in this deal. So again, don't know how reliable he is in terms of having that info, but it would make sense given what we've said. So we'll see.
Well, again, you got to love what Dallas has done with this. I mean, what's Stan Bowman doing in Edmonton right now?
I mean, look, for Edmonton, I thought they made 2 solid pickups with Wallman today and then Trent Frederick the other day, but I mean, let me pull up their lineup, but
this is Edmonton. I'll do that real quick.
They still need help in their top 6 on the wing somewhere.
Yeah.
Just because like that the offseason moves they tried just did not work out the way they thought.
Here you go, guys. I got it. Like you look at those. By the way, I kind of laughed about this. Snapper saying right here, Danny Nelson needs to wear number 29 so that you can save Islander fans some money. Yeah.
I mean, with the jersey number rule that Lou has, it's likely that it happens.
But yeah, I think that second line. Podkolzin's been a solid addition for them, but I think still you would like to add another second line winger there. The third line, decent, not great, and then the fourth line's all right. And then, I mean, defensively, I think their decor is solid, especially with them bringing in Jake Wallman. I know Matthias Ekholm right now is out with injury, but yeah, I think having Darnell Nurse, Ekholm, Kulak, Bouchard, Jake Wallman, either Ty Emberson or Troy Stetcher, whoever you want to place in that third pair. I think their defense is solid, but then again, you have the problem of Stuart Skinner, where he's shown that he could get hot at the right time, but I mean, if he's just going by what his regular season numbers are this year, then I don't know. It could be a quick exit for Edmonton this year, but again, with Connor McDavid in your lineup, you can never count out the Oilers because, I mean, both McDavid and Draisaitl, they could just turn it on and they just power the Oilers on.
Yeah, but I'd still hesitate on Stuart Skinner because let's be honest, if he didn't have 3 consecutive good games last year versus Dallas, they would have been long gone. All right, you guys ready for 5 hours of hockey talk tomorrow? Come back to either one of us because we're going to both be doing specials, and then you guys are going to be jumping on with us, so that's even better. So
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Oh God, well, just the way last year went, with 5 minutes remaining, Tomas Hertl going to Vegas. I mean, I can almost see the Rantanen thing because again, everybody, it's not official, but just seeing that itching closer.
Well, they'll probably like announce the return as the stream ends. That's just how this happens. I ended my stream and this report even dropped, so that's just the way this goes.
And when we ended our weekly show and then Capo Caco got traded like right there, it's like, thanks guys. How about you think about us? Oliver Shillington going into the Islanders Ring of Honor. All right.
Mhm.
Okay, guys, we're gonna cut it off right here. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribed and you like the video. And also, gentlemen, I'll see you in less than 12 hours. So
Yeah.
Thanks
catch
for
you
having
all
us
in a
on.
little bit.